we've got the CEO of Ford with us right now, right on the back of this. John, Sarah, and Kate joining us, Jim Farley. And Jim, I really appreciate your time. So here, we just got these numbers as you're hearing John and I talk about them. You're, of course, at your Ford Expedition plant in Louisville, Kentucky. U.S. economy shrinking 0.3% in the first quarter, significantly weaker than expected, a dramatic turnaround from the fourth quarter of last year, and all of that ahead of the tariff announcement. So, you know, we're in a world right now, consumer confidence expectations of the future are their lowest in 13 years. Where you're standing right now, is that fear showing up in the dealer lots?
Well, not for us in auto. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm at our most profitable auto company, and Ford is the most American auto company. We make 80+% of our vehicles here. And to your point, you know, it's tough to tell right now. The reason is because we're seeing double-digit sales increases since March and April, but we ran this employee pricing. I don't know if that's unique to us. There may be a lot of customers going out and buying cars, you know, before what they fear is the imports increasing prices. That may be a dynamic we're certainly seeing. Our inventories are shrinking at the dealership.
All right, and so you're saying what some of this might be is people rushing to buy ahead. So you can't, I guess, is what you're saying, you can't tell if there's going to be weakness because you're taking from the future right now. That's the unknown.
Well, we're just seeing a lot of people respond to our employee pricing, and Ford is an American company. I think, you know, for many years, you know, half of the vehicles sold in the U.S. are imported. Maybe not everyone knew that. So it's hard for me to tell. I think we're in the first or second inning here of a 9-inning game. But so far for us in the auto, you know, the revenue's been pretty strong. We'll report earnings next week, and you'll see that as a trend. But as you said, there are a lot of ins and outs when it comes to tariffs.
All right, I want to ask you that, but you just said something really important there, Jim. You said that you're going to report earnings next week. Stellantis, your rival here, they just came out hours ago and said they can't forecast anything from this point on. They suspended all guidance for the future because they said tariff-related uncertainties. General Motors, your colleague Mary Barra came out and said they could not release earnings yesterday. They could not release forecasts. They had to put the whole thing on hold for a few days because they just couldn't get clarity on what the numbers are. Are you telling us that you're just not seeing that at all? Do you feel that, you know, you've got the clarity for your own numbers, the clarity for guidance, you're just in a completely different world than they are right now?
No, I would say, first, I don't want to preview our earnings, but I will say some basic things. We know exactly what the tariff bill would look like, you know, in terms of cost for the company. We know the offsets. What we don't know is how competitors are going to respond. You know, we're the most American company, so if there's any company that can manage through these tariffs, it's Ford. We make 80% here. And our competitors are different. Even the domestic competitors are some of the biggest importers into our industry. So, you know, they will have a totally different tariff bill. You don't think of all the three domestic companies as the same. We're not. We're really different. But as I said, you know, next week, I think we'll be able to tell people kind of what the tariff bills for Ford would look like, the most American company, what kind of offsets. What we don't know, Erin, is what are the import competitors going to do? Yeah. Are they going to build 10 factories? Are they going to take pricing and pass it on to the customers this summer? You know, the stuff we built now is priced. If we announce a price increase now, it'll go into play in July and August. So we have to wait until then to see what our competitors do. I hope that makes sense.
Okay. No, it does on some level, but you keep emphasizing the most American company. You've now said it. I haven't counted exactly how many times, Jim, but obviously you're making that point loud and clear. Does that prevent you from any pricing increases? I mean, are you confident at this point saying that there's not going to be any price increases coming from Ford trucks or cars this summer?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm not going to be specific about our pricing, but I will say one thing. We're announcing today that we're going to extend our employee pricing through July 4th. That's a big commitment. I don't know if the other competitors are going to be able to do that, but we want to keep our prices competitive and low. We sell some of the highest volume vehicles in America, like the like the F-150. And we think this is an opportunity for Ford having a different footprint. We have a different exposure to tariffs. And that to us is an advantage.
Yes. All right, so I understand what you're saying. Employee pricing through July 4th. Obviously, you're announcing that right now, but not commenting on prices beyond that and whether there'll be increases. You also said that you understand the tariffs, and I want to ask you more about that because so many people don't. The markets, not just others in your industry, of course, but across in other industries where there's been suspension of forecasts, whether it's from just economic uncertainty or the tariffs themselves. There was a line on a CNBC article trying to summarize the changes in the auto tariffs yesterday. I just wanted to read it to you, really also for everyone to understand out there what we're dealing with. See if anyone can follow along. It says, parts-related reimbursements include potential offsets of amount equal to 3.75% of the value of a U.S.-made car assembled before May 1st. After that, the reimbursement cap is lowered to 2.5% of cars' value until April 2027. The administration calculated those rates by applying a 25% duty to 15% of the value of a U.S. assembled vehicle in the first year, 25% duty to 10% of that value in the second year. Now, you can just go ahead and speed up my voice like a drug disclaimer. Does that all make sense? And do you actually think that will last more than 24 or 48 hours when all the rules could change again?
We'll see, but here, let me take you through the math. You know, a $40,000, $50,000 F-150, you know, 75, 80% of the parts are made in America. But to keep it competitive and affordable compared to companies that import from overseas like Mexico or South Korea or Japan, you know, we have to import certain parts. And a lot of parts like fasteners, washers, carpet, wiring looms are just not available. We can't even buy those parts here. So for affordability and available the supply chain, what the president did is say, okay, for 15% of your parts, if you make a vehicle in the U.S. and you make 75% of the parts in the vehicle from the U.S., there's 15% exemption from the tariffs. And also the second thing he said is compounding. We have a lot of parts that come from overseas that have multiple tariffs. We have the fentanyl tariffs, we have the China tariffs, we have the reciprocal tariffs. Yes. Some of our parts went from 0 tariff to 140% tariff. So they decided to say you get one tariff, it's 25%. You know, that clarifies things, but boy, do we have a lot of work to do with the administration on exports, you know, and these parts, affordability of parts is a really important thing for America because we got to keep the vehicles affordable. Yes, we want to make them like Ford does in the U.S., but we also want to make the vehicles affordable that are built in the U.S., and the parts are critical for that. So,
crucial, and you say, boy, a lot of work we need to do with this administration, but, you know, again, as you stand there in an expedition plant, you know, you were saying 75 to 80% of the parts come from the U.S., and I know that's a general number. I'm not saying the plant you're standing at necessarily specifically, but so that means 20 to 25% aren't. Are you willing to actually put real billions of dollars of capital expenditure on the line to change that number, to make a long-term decision that Ford is going to bring more plant activity, parts and beyond to the U.S.? Are you at that point or not yet?
We are. We're building a new plant in Ohio and Tennessee. We're number 2 to Tesla in electric. We're number 3 to hybrid to both the Japanese competitors. We're investing across these different kinds of powertrains. We're kind of the only one who offers all of it. You can get electric F-150, a hybrid F-150, a V8 F-150, EcoBoost F-150, and we don't really care. We just want people to have the choice. So we're building 2 brand new factories in the U.S., and we're the most American already. As far as parts are concerned, that's a good question. Now, we have a lot more work to do to, you know, can we even do this, that 15 or 20%? And that's what we have to work through. Look, we're expecting our competitors to do what Ford's already done, which is to localize more production like this plant here in Kentucky.
So let me just, before you go, and I know you have to go, but have your conversations with the president been productive? And do you have a direct line to him to talk to him about this?
We have worked with his team like every day for the last couple months. And so a very high level of engagement. Look, the administration knows Ford's a bit different. And we've also been working with Mary and Stellantis too as a group, because we recognize how important this moment is to get this all right and kind of figure it out together. And I have to say that the engagement has been very high. Bill Ford's talked to the president a couple times. I know that's, typical. But look, we're all trying to figure this out to do the right thing for the country. And it's going to take a little time. But we never left the U.S. I guess that's my point. We just never left. So we're in a different situation than the other companies. And we also want to do the right thing, like we're building 2 new plants. But we have to figure out this affordability part of this.
All right. Well, Jim, I appreciate your time and thank you very much.